Hey folks, I'm back at the base in High Wycombe in the UK and I'm trialing out some bike setups for the big Africa trip that is coming next year. Um, and I thought I'd take you on the journey with me. So I've got the Genesis Equilibrium set up. This is the bike that I really want to take on the adventure. And at the moment, I've got everything loaded up into these two panniers. My trusty Crosso panniers. One of them got in a bit of an accident in America, but still good, still plenty of life left in it. And at the front, I've just got a um, pretty interesting orientation of Apidura bag. It's a handlebar bag, but as you can see, I'm clearly running it in the wrong direction because I've got these bars that get in the way of putting any sort of length in it, running it in the correct orientation. So I'm going to go for a little ride on this. This is everything aside from water that I'm hoping to take. And also aside from these cages as well, which are going to sit on the front forks here, and they're going to allow me to carry a bit more water as well. I'm going to go for a little ride on this, and then I'm going to adjust the setup for a more bike packing style setup, and I'll show you the difference. So I just took that for a ride, and the handling was pretty good, to be honest. It climbed quite well and easily. There wasn't much swaying about, and as long as the road is relatively good, sort of British standard of road, that sort of road buzz type thing that we have here, as long as the road condition stays like that, this would be fine. But this is Africa we're talking about here, and so there is part of me that thinks I need something a bit more stable, a bit less kind of feeble feeling. Like it feels like a road bike with a lot of stuff strapped to it. That is kind of what it feels like. So I know the Surly would feel a lot more solid and robust, but heavier, 26-inch wheel, a slower bike overall. That's the decision that I'm trying to make here. Oh, and that setup, by the way, weighs 28 kilograms. 28 kilograms for the road bike setup with the panniers attached to it and the rack. And this, my friends, is the crazy bike packing style setup. So you'll notice I've still got a rack in here, and we've got the frame bag in the middle, still got the two water bottles in the normal position. We've got this larger dry bag at the front with a lock strapped under it. That is actually really secure there with the bungee. And then at the back, we've got the Apidura Expedition, the Apidura handlebar bag, and we've got the sleep mat at the very back, which doesn't really weigh anything. That can just be strapped on in whatever way. It up here is a pillow that could probably be brought down and put in this space here, just for a bit better completeness. It looks a mess, for sure. Definitely looks a mess, but it's an idea. In principle, it can be neatened up, but it's a way to do it without these horrible heavy panniers, which I really want to do, and it's potentially a bit more of a streamlined setup. I don't really know. Maybe it's not, because we've still got this acting as a massive aero thing, and be nicer to get these turned around the other way so that everything's more in a straight line. That was the general idea to begin with, but yeah, I don't know. What I've thought about doing is I've got one of these thermarests, which I'm considering using instead of this guy, and that rolls up to like a smaller size than this. I could park that on top there, and not have this one here at the back. So a couple of things to try there, and then I can strap that on underneath. That doesn't weigh anything anyway. It's just a really light little pillow up there, and I'll get a proper dry bag for that if I do decide to run it in that location. But yeah, I'm going to go outside and test run all of this, see how it feels. Well, that setup was absolutely amazing. I love that. I really love the feel of the the weight distribution. It feels about 60-40, like 60 at the back, 40 at the front. And it doesn't really feel like a loaded bike. It doesn't ride like a loaded bike. It just rides like a heavy road bike, I guess. It just feels well weighted. And yeah, the reason why I thought of doing this in the first place, by the way, is I put this Apidura Expedition saddlebag on before, and I could not get it to stop swinging. Like I was tightening these, I was trying. I don't know if it's just because of how I've got my saddle set. I'm really not sure, but I have an Outkit Koala, and it doesn't do that. The Outkit is rock solid, but I couldn't get this. I guess there's just so much of it that goes back out the back of the bike here that maybe there's just too much of it. But anyway, I thought of putting these things underneath it and strapping them together to stop it from swinging around and leaving the rack on. So I do have the rack if I really come into difficulties and need to strap anything to the rack. So that's what I've done at the moment. I really like that setup. The only things missing off of that are the front cages, which I need to put on after I've fit the dynamo up. And job will be a good one. I think I'm going to go with something like this because it feels really good. It definitely doesn't feel like things are clanging around back there like it did with the panniers on. And things can be really strapped down together, whereas the panniers can't. The panniers are always sort of wriggling about on the rack. So this is another bike packing style setup. Is this too crazy? Is this just ridiculous? I'm not using this on this setup because I actually have one of these inflatable ones. It's not a Thermarest, but I got it in New Zealand. It's kind of similar, a bit heavier. Same idea. Is this too crazy? Weight at kind of the extreme ends of the bike. I'm still wondering whether I'm going to do a trial setup with the Surly, just to see. But anyway, this is everything. Aside from that lock there, which I'm not sure I'm going to take. And still, fork mounts, still haven't put those on. And then I've got an Igaro D1, which goes with the dynamo. That's just got to be wired in. But everything else is on. The tent, camping gear, cooking, clothes, everything else. And at the moment, the back is actually being held on by the lock, which is kind of genius, but that won't be the final solution. There will be some strapping to hold that on and strapping to replace the bungee cord at the front as well. Too crazy? Let's go for a ride. So just been for a ride with this setup. Man, it looks ridiculous, doesn't it? Looks a bit ridiculous. But it does still feel like I've just strapped a whole load of stuff to a road bike. It's got that sort of flicky, flimsy sort of feel, and I just don't know. Do I trust that for 10,000 kilometers? That is what I'm not sure about. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. What I do love about this is it is light. It just feels really lightweight. The whole rig only weighs about 28 kilos, and considering the bike itself is about 10, that's only 18 kilos of stuff. Full camping, cooking setup. Obviously that is without liquids, no water, no fuel. But how about that? That's pretty cool, right? So those are the setups I was able to try today. Let me know your thoughts. Have you done a big tour like this? Have you ever loaded up a bike that's not supposed to be loaded? Am I being stupid? Should I just take the purpose-built touring bike that I have, the heavy one, the Surly? There's just part of me that really wants to push the boundaries with this Africa challenge and actually make it comfortable to do some big kilometers when I'm out there. But those of you that have ridden Surleys, other touring bikes, and also kind of makeshift touring bikes as well, let me know your thoughts. Which would you use? Would you go for the full lightweight setup and try and be pushing 150, 200 Ks a day? Or would you just grin and bear it with a heavier bike that's not as fun to ride, but makes more sense. It's the more sensible choice because you can get parts in every country in the world will have 26-inch tires and it can be welded and all of that good stuff. But that was just me messing around for a couple of hours with setups and going for rides. Still haven't decided. I'm open to all ideas how I should go about carrying my stuff, myself, my life across the continent of Africa.